We're back, and courtesy of MagFest, a local gaming convention here in Alexandria, we're here with writer, actor, and director Matthew Mercer. Matthew, welcome to Fast Forward.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time to come here from the madness and frenzy that is MagFest.
No, honestly, it's a welcome escape for the time being. It's been pretty intense for the past few days.
Now, I guess the first question I should ask you, we don't get many actors on the show, is how did a nice guy like you get into a job like that?
Well, a lot of hard work, and I grew up around a lot of people that were in the industry telling me, don't be an actor. It was kind of the thing, you know, people who were actors, like, just don't be an actor.
Well, that means they loved you.
Yeah, well, here's the hoping. But it just kind of fell into my lap as years went on. But I originally was doing a lot of theater in high school and local theatrical productions, and just kind of took it from there. I had a couple of lucky breaks where my father, who was an audio engineer, befriended some of the producers of some Japanese animation projects when I was in high school. And he's like, you know, hey, I'm working on some of these anime projects, doing a couple bit voice parts. You should come watch it. I'm like, yes, this is so great. And this little 17-year-old kid is really excited to watch my dad do a couple of small voices on a show. And then while I was there watching him do this, I was talking with the producer, and he was like, hey, I kind of like the sound of your voice. You ever thought about doing this? I'm like, yeah. And so they stopped calling my dad and started calling me instead.
Oh, how did he feel about that?
He's like, if it was anybody else, he'd be angry. But I think he took it okay.
Now, you actually have done some voiceover roles in some pretty hotshot Japanese animation. I mean, Cowboy Bebop, The Big O, Trigun, Akira, for heaven's sake. Even one of the most violent animes I've seen in a long time, although I understand Blood Butler is worse, is Fist of the North Star.
Ah, yes, heads exploding everywhere.
Oh, yes, and on time delay. That's the best part.
Yeah, you're already dead. Great catchphrase.
Let's talk a little bit about one project that really has gotten you a lot of notice. It's one of the reasons you're attending MagFest, and that's a series that you wrote and directed, a web series called There Will Be Brawl. There Might Be Brawl, I beg your pardon, which is essentially set in a dystopian mushroom kingdom featuring the Mario Brothers, Princess Peach, and almost any other Nintendo game hero you'd care to mention. How did that start? It started because
I'd done a couple of web projects with some creative partners of mine, and we really wanted to kind of take something, challenge ourselves with something that was more serious, but still keep it in that realm of, you know, we were all video game geeks growing up, so we wanted to kind of try and keep it in that realm of comfortability. And so we had a conversation about one of the characters in this series, whose name is Kirby, who in the games, he's this cute little pink puffball, but his moveset is he essentially eats people, then wears their skin. I mean, it's much cuter than that. But we broke it down and was like, this is a little disturbing when you think about it. And so it began to, of course, from there made the Hannibal Lecter allusions. And then we began thinking of other various ways to kind of twist these Nintendo characters that we grew up and loved into a darker kind of HBO crime drama world style. And give her, 3 or 4 more weeks past then, we had developed an entire world and a storyline and decided, you know what, let's go ahead and film it. And so we shot the first 2 episodes, ran out of money. And we're like, well, I guess that's it. So we put the first one up online. Hopefully we were going to get some fan feedback and hopefully some donations, and it did a lot better than we ever expected it would be. And then we got picked up by The Escapist, who funded the rest of the series, and there went the rest of my 2009.
Oh yeah, and 10 episodes total.
10 episodes.
The last one, I believe, the wrap party was in April. Is that correct?
It was, yes.
Of this last year. Tell me what you learned in doing that. I mean, this is a major project for an extended period of time, collaborating with a large number of people because you had different actors coming and going, playing different characters. What was that experience like for you as a learning experience as a writer and as a director?
Creatively, it was fantastic. I learned first off the importance of collaborating with people as a whole, meaning even as a director, even as a person who's kind of this point of leadership in a group, you still have to make everyone feel like it's a project that you're all a part of.
Right.
Especially when no one's making any money off of it. It was a pure passion project. So I learned the importance and the joy of working with a team that large and making everyone else feel like it's every bit their project as it is mine. I also learned from a director standpoint that you don't get a lot of sleep. I had points in time where I went 72 hours without sleep and began to hallucinate. It was like, I should probably go to sleep.
I don't know. hallucination might be the most creative point in your day.
It could be, but not when you're in the middle of editing. And all of a sudden you do wake up 5 hours later and you realize, oh no, I haven't been editing. I dreamt that up. Like there are scenes that don't exist in the series that I still think really should be there, but no, it's just the dream I had. So it's hard work. But I think first and foremost, I learned that there is a venue online for people that really appreciated the series for what it brought about. This very, it had points of comedy and parody, but it also had a very, very strong and very dark story, and it resonated with a lot more people than I expected it would. We essentially made it for ourselves,
right?
Which is what I think most creative projects should be, something you make for yourself that you appreciate, and people out there seem to like it too, and now I'm at MagFest.
And then the remarkable thing is, because it was a web event, because you had support from a number of contributors in terms of both creative talent and in terms of financial support, it was easier for you to actually execute your creative vision rather than having to accommodate the strictures of a more commercial medium.
Precisely, which is very freeing. I've since then worked on a couple of web projects that have been much more stringent with the control that was given from the creative vision standpoint.
Right.
And that on the back end was a very, very, very important lesson to learn as well, and really made me appreciate the experience that was making There Will Be Brawl, because we had that flexibility and that creative openness. So I miss that.
Well, there's always the next time down the road. I mean, it's always an option.
Here's to hoping.
Yes. Now, let's talk a little bit about your career as a voice actor. You started off in Japanese animation, and that's a very specific, doing English dubs is a very specific approach in the U.S. It to an extent, it mirrors the Japanese approach where the animation already exists, and then you're vocalizing over the action as you see it on the screen and as you read your script. What do you have to learn to do in order to do that effectively and efficiently?
Well, it's definitely a skill set that you learn over time. Timing is a big thing. Being very conscious of verbal beats and consonants, because you have to match lip flap with very little preparation time. You literally get to watch a line of dialogue once, and you kind of place how you would read it against this one preview in your head, and then you go through and then you actually record the line of dialogue. So you have one visual preview to go do your entire performance based off of, and then kind of tweak it from there if you don't match the beats for it.
Right.
But you're under time constraints, and there are directors and engineers that are waiting for you to do this performance. So it's a little stressful, but it's also very rewarding, and it's much more of a challenge. It's like a game than a original prelay animation.
Now, in Japan, when they do this, we've seen from all of our bonus footage that we all get in our DVDs, it's usually they do this in groups of actors. If there's a scene, the actors that are present in that scene are all present in the same room, working different microphones and to an extent interacting with each other, cueing off of each other to an extent. It's different in the U.S. Most of what I've seen is basically man in a box. How is that for you as an artist in terms of being able to have nothing else to feed off of?
It depends. I mean, a lot of American animation, at least high-end American animation, like things that Warner Brothers put together,
right,
or a lot of stuff you see on Cartoon Network, that's all prelay, meaning we do the voices first, and we are in a group, and that it feels like a radio play. It's so much more rewarding as an actor. Plus, you get to actually meet and work with the other actors as well, and kind of build a rapport. And with any sort of performance, it's always about that much more comfortable, and you get a better performance, I feel, when you have other people there to play off of.
Right.
With anime and a lot of video games, it is just you in a booth, and you have your headset, you have a script, you have behind a glass pane, the director, producers, the engineer, and it's a lot more isolated, and it's not as preferable per se, but also it takes a skill set to be able to really make that performance believable with very little tools at your disposal.
Right.
They say radio or voice is the theater of the mind, and it really is. You have to rely upon your imagination to set the scene, to visualize the other characters, to build this world around you so that you can still play within it, but with very little tool at your disposal. So you have to kind of harness your inner 10-year-old.
Now, man in a box, Japanese animation, looking at a screen, you're actually seeing the character you're portraying, you're seeing the emotion, you're seeing the posture, you're seeing everything else, which helps you with your interpretation, I would imagine.
Very much so.
Voice for a game. I mean, you've done things like Medal of Honor, you've done some Final Fantasy work, you've done X-Men Origins, you've done World of Warcraft. I mean, you've done some icon game. You've contributed to some of those games. How is that different? Because I would assume that your voices are basically being taken and then being incorporated into animation in another location. Are you seeing anything when you do that?
It depends. Sometimes you don't see any artwork. You have no idea what your character looks like. In a lot of cases, you come into the booth with very little knowledge about the project, and they tell you, all right, your guy is 28 years old, he's a harsh, rugged military type, his parents died when he was 6, and there's an alien attacking the planet, go. And you're like, and it's all, and you have to cold read for 4 hours in a booth. And that's a little harrowing, but nevertheless, that's part of what the job calls for. But in some other better cases, they give you artwork and they give you more feedback, and for a few days ahead of time, they might send you the script or some character background you can actually study and research a little. And for me, it's always better to see the artwork for the character, because then it gives you an essence of what they look like, what their personality might be, what voice fits that visual better. And as just an animation video game nerd myself, I just want to see what my character looks like.
So you talk a little bit about the more high-end animation, the U.S. animation, of being a collaborative work. Well, you're kind of working on a pretty high-end project right now because we're in the middle of the, I wouldn't say resurrection, the reimagining of an iconic 1980s animation series, the Thundercats, and you're playing one of the central characters, Tygra. Mm-hmm. I have to ask you, how'd you get that gig?
I don't know what guardian angel was looking above me that day. I grew up watching Thundercats obsessively. Like I had all the action figures as a kid. I had my little plastic sort of omens that made the ching noises when you swung it around. I loved that show growing up, and I had T-shirts with Thundercats logo, and it was just it's something that I grew up with and appreciated. And so when the auditions came through, I was like, I have to get this. I have to get this. And I walked into the booth that day after practicing extensively on the sides, and told the booth director at my agency, like, I'm gonna book this. You're gonna help me book this. And like all auditions, it's better to just forget about it once you audition, because if you don't get it, you've forgotten about it. If you do book it, then it's a nice surprise. But that was the one audition that I held on to, for the next month or so, because it takes about a month before you hear back.
Well, there's a lot. How many voices normally how many auditions do they normally take for, were you auditioning for a specific character, or you were auditioning as a voice to be assigned to a character?
Specific characters usually audition for.
So you were auditioning for Tygra? For
Tygra and for Lionel. I auditioned for both. Dude,
oh man.
Oh, it was. My inner 8-year-old was freaking out during that whole process. But then, I didn't know what my chances were, as is with any project, but I figured I'd just do my best, put it out in the universe. And I got the call about a month and a half later from my agent, who's like, so we got a new nickname for you around the office. And I was like, really? Uh-oh. What did I do? It's like, it's Tygra. And of course I did my little dance and run around the apartment, just like, oh my God, freaking out. And it was amazing. And since then, it's just been an absolute trip, an absolute ride.
Now, you've already recorded a number of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like? I mean, did you actually work? I know that reading on the web that Larry Kinney, who originally voiced Tygra in the original series, is now voicing for a couple of episodes the role of Lionel's father.
Yes.
I mean he voiced Lionel. I beg your pardon.
Yeah,
did you said you worked in groups? Did you actually work in the same room with him, or was that was he? I know he's New York based, so I just asked.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to work with him directly because he was in New York. So they recorded him via web, Skype. They patched him in, so that's what they call it. So he was recorded remotely. Sadly, because I would love to, and hopefully at some point in the near future, when they do more press stuff, I'll get a chance to meet him, because I grew up with him. And his daughter, I'm a big fan of as well. She's an actress.
Her work is marvelous. I mean, the work that she did earlier when she did that pastiche of the Variety show, she was absolutely brilliant. Viva Variety was fantastic.
MTV's The State.
Just absolutely amazing.
Oh, she's incredible. I didn't even know that was his daughter until recently, and my head exploded. I was like, what? But yeah, so I didn't get a chance to work with him, but the rest of the cast has been absolutely amazing to work with, and I feel very humbled, because I'm definitely one of those, I'm still up and coming, or I'm still making a career out of this, comparatively, where a lot of people I'm working with now have been doing this for a long time, and are people that I looked up to, and inspired me as a voice actor. So it's very humbling, and I'm kind of like, do I really belong here?
Do we know, what are some of the names of some of the other principal actors who are working? Okay, are we allowed to talk about that?
Not allowed to talk about it.
So basically we're waiting until what, Comic-Con?
I don't know, but I mean, we're given the okay to talk about ourselves if we wanted to, and of course I couldn't hold it back any further. I was just like, oh my God, you know, put it on my Twitter. I had to tell my friends.
Not like you were really invested in the character.
No, not at all. That would be ridiculous. But you know, the other actors, they will announce it when they want to, at their time, when it's their prerogative.
Right,
But there's some really amazing people working on this project, and I'm really blessed and very lucky to be part of this.
Now, professionally, this is very important for you because this is another level up in terms of platform, in terms of exposure, in terms of being one of the lead characters. I mean, this is a big step up for you as a voice actor, and also as a professional. But as an experience, working with these other professionals, putting this package together, was it what you envisioned it would be?
That and more. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. Like I've done some prelay before, but it's smaller projects and you know, small studios around Los Angeles. There's a lot of various studios that work goes to here and there. This we're recording at the Warner Brothers Ranch lot in Burbank, which is that's just the trip driving there every time we do a session. But then it's the same animation studio that does all the Batman and DC animated projects, and so walking through that studio and seeing all the animators working on these other cartoon shows, and the director who's working on it, which I don't think they've announced yet, so I can't say, has done a lot of work, animated direction work that I grew up and loved as well. So this is just like I'm beside myself. It's far more than I ever expected, and I expected a lot.
So basically, you're a professional. You present yourself as a professional. You work as a professional, and the geek does the happy dance in the background.
Exactly, exactly. You know, I've had days where I was talking with one of the Dan Norton, who's he's one of the main director or the main production. I don't know what his actual title is, but he's kind of like the guru of the project.
He's the guy.
The guy. He's the guy. One of them. And we were just nerding out about Thundercats, and he was showing me all this artwork and concept art and background art, and talking about storyline and future seasons and like
future seasons.
Future seasons.
Oh, future. Good. That's a very good phrase to use. Future seasons.
I'm just saying.
Plural. Very
just
good.
Saying. I think this has legs. It has legs.
Could be good.
I think so. But we nerded out about this for a long time, and I'm driving home, and I'm just like so excited. And I'm like, wait, I'm in this. You know, like I have to keep reminding myself that I'm part of the project because I'm such a fanboy over it from an exterior standpoint. So,
well, Matthew, we're almost out of time, and I got to tell you, as a aged fanboy, thank you very much. It gives me something to really look forward to.
Oh, thank you.
And I wish you luck in your numerous careers as a writer, as a director, as a producer, as an actor. It's going to be fun watching you do cool stuff that I get to watch.
Yeah, here's to hoping. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming again. Well, that's it for this edition of Fast Forward. We hope you found something of interest. We hope you come see us again. Until then, this is Tom Schad saying, take care.